Hello everybody, Elias5891 here with another KTANE module tutorial. This time we're covering the scripting module. This one is kind of based on Visual Studio C#, so I kind of like the tie-in on this one. You'll get, oops, didn't mean to actually click anything. You'll get like the start of a code. We'll have some using statements, class which is consistent, a variable that you can toggle, a function you can toggle, or a method. Some information here that ties into this, and finally you'll have to determine which action to take here. So toggling on and off, changing variable type, changing return type, changing what you're calling. 4 things to check. How do we do these? Well, this is not too bad. It does require edge work, so let's each time pretend that I've been given that by the diffuser. For step A, we want to look at the using directives. We need to figure out which ones are unnecessary. The number indicates which one is unnecessary. Got this little Venn diagram here, section 1, section 2, section 3. They're colored blue, red, green. The instructions here call them by both position and color. I personally would just like to take a second and thank the creator for that. I'm not colorblind, but this sort of built-in functionality from the beginning, catering the manual to that when it's such a small thing is a really nice step, and I'm glad that this happened. So rules. If multiple correct, we go to exceptions. If none are correct, then none of the rules apply, and then we don't do any. So let's look. First one, blue is true if the amount of lit indicators is greater than the unlit. That's true. We have 2 lit and no unlit, so blue is true. We'll take a note. Red is true if the indicators SND, TRN, or CLR are present. That's also true, actually. Red is also true. Green is true if FRQ, SIG, or BOB are lit. That is not the case. So we have blue and red true in the B section, in the exceptions. If we look at B, take the amount of batteries modulo 2. 4 batteries modulo 2 is 0. If 0, both 1 and 2 are unnecessary. So 1 and 2 are unnecessary. We click them, that kind of grays them out and shows that they're not required. And if you do any programming in Visual Studio, that's actually, it grays them out when you don't need them. So nice tie-in to actual Visual Studio. So that takes care of our using directives. Next, the variable. We have 4 possible types of variable: an int, a float, a bool, and a char. I think it always lists them in that order. We'll double check as we go. We're going to go through this list and take the first valid option. For int, we're going to take it if the value of the int is INTC, which is set to be 25, if the value 25 is lower than the last digit of the serial number, 2. 25 is not lower than 2, so we're not using an int. For float, the float value needs to be lower than the number of batteries. So here's that. Float value is 1.4, which is lower than 4, so the float is correct, and that's the one we're going to keep. We'll move down the rest of the list when we get to the next one. Method type, do we want a bool or a void? If the amount of solved modules is even, we want a void. Otherwise, we want a bool. For the tutorial, we're doing the 1x2 bomb, or the 1 module 1x2 bombs. It's always going to be 0 solves, so it's always going to be void for this set of examples. That's a pretty trivial thing. I don't feel too bad not covering that in detail. Last up, the action. Check the action and the using directives, and look up the pair. So using directives, do any of the using directives contain KTANE written out as KTANE? Script API, system, KM mods, nothing specifically says KTANE. So that would be a false, because we're over here. And then serial number, does it contain any letter in KTANE? It does, has a T and an E. So we want to do handle strike. Handle solve, handle strike. We've got it all into place. We hit the button, and we've solved one. Let's solve another one. We'll start at the top again. Here. Here's a using that uses has KTANE, so you can see what that looks like. Again, using directives first. Blue is true if lit is greater than unlit. That's false this time. Red is true if SRN, TRN, SND, TRN, or CLR are present. None is true. Green is true if FRQ, SIG, or BRB are lit. Also not true. None of them are true. None of the rules apply, and none are unnecessary, so we leave them all in place. Next up, variable. We start with the int. Fuse is 9 is 9. Lower than the last digit of the serial number. 7. No. Next we go to the float. 46. Is 46 lower than the number of batteries? Hope not. No. So we go to the bool. The variable's bool if the condition matches the value of the bool value. You'll notice the bool is a true, and what it means by the condition is it wants you to look at this statement here. If, parentheses, and then it has an exclamation point, which means not fuse. So it's saying if fuse is false. This says if fuse is true. That's not what we want. So that's not the case. If fuse is true, and we want this rule to apply, then we don't want that exclamation point there. We just want to say if fuse. If this said false, then this rule would apply. So exclamation point makes it false, otherwise it's true for the purposes of this module. Little oversimplification from what an exclamation point actually does. So it's not bool, so it has to be car. No other choices. That's fine. Method type, as we said before, 0 solves means we're in void. Last up, the action. Does any using have KTANE? Yes. Does the variable, does the serial number contain any letter in KTANE? No. Or a val? Yes. So we want to solve. On strike, handle, solve. This is not an actual script. It doesn't do anything when you click the X. I really thought there might be an Easter egg for that originally, but no, not the case. That's fine. Do one more. Actually, I think do 2 more because I think I put it on 4. Okay, here's another false. Let's start with the rules. Which usings can we block? Blue is true if lit exceeds unlit, false. Red is true if send, TRN, clear, no. Bottom right, FRQ, SIG, Bob, no. Okay, next. Variable, start with int. Activity is 4. Is 4 lower than the last digit of the serial? 1, no. Next we go to float, float is 28. Is 28 lower than the number of batteries? No. So we go to bool. Activity equals true if not activity. True, false. We don't want bool, so we're going to take the car. Method type is going to be void. Action. Do we have a KTANE? We do not. Does the serial number contain a letter in KTANE? No. Does it contain a val at all? No. So we want on strike. And these do scroll in the same order every time as well. Specifically, it's reading order down this list. So now let's intentionally miss one. Let's make that a bool instead of a void. When you run it, gives you a nice little message. Pause it for a few seconds and then puts it back where it was. You don't have to restart. Just have to fix your screw-ups. Always nice when you don't have to start from scratch, assuming it's a module that, can let that slide. Looks like we got one more, so we'll knock it out. No indicators at all this time, which means none of these are going to be true. Don't even have to read them. Variable, we start with int. 40. Is 40 less than the last digit of the serial number? No. Next we go to float. Is 2 less than the number of batteries? It is. So we leave it there. We have a void because 0 solves. Directive using KTANE? No. That's the strike column. And then serial number, letter in KTANE, no. Val, no. So we're on strike again. We're going to handle solves. That's 5 ahead. On strike. Oops, rush through it. That's why you don't rush. Where did we error? Oh, whoops, easy mistake. It does contain a letter, and the word contain has a K right here. So that should actually have been handle strike. And there we go. And that is the scripting module. It's pretty straightforward. Nothing too complicated there. Don't need to know any detailed scripting things, so that's nice. But that's going to wrap it up for this one, guys. As always, comments, questions, concerns, suggestions, leave them down below as always. And until next time, guys, it's been Elias. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day. Don't explode. Bye now.